Hi, this is Arnav from the Towers team, and today I'm going to briefly discuss why you should use chatbots to mobile optimize your mortgage landing pages. Now, in the market space, we often talk about how the average age of homebuyers is dropping, how millennials are getting older, they're getting further along in their careers, they have more disposable income, and they want to buy homes. I think somewhere around 89% of millennials want to buy a home at some point in their life. Now, with this imminent wave of younger homebuyers coming, a key question that LOs need to ask themselves, a key question that you need to ask yourself is, are my pages mobile optimized? Unless you've been living under a rock for the last decade, you'll know that mobile phones have become the primary device through which we interact with the internet. And even though today most mortgage applications still happen on desktops or on laptops, that is going to change as homebuyers become younger. Um, because younger homebuyers, people in my generation, millennials, they are more accustomed to using their phones for things, and they don't have the same hangups that Gen Xers or baby boomers have had with using their phones. They have more trust in doing things like applying for a mortgage on their phone. Now, the issue is that most LOs are using landing pages that are usable and technically mobile optimized, but for all intents and purposes, they are completely and utterly unengaging on phones. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. The average mortgage landing page looks something like this. You have a form on the left side of the screen, you have a little bit of information, maybe some handy little graphics to convince the user to give you their details. And on a desktop screen, it actually looks pretty all right. Forms aren't particularly engaging, but you need them to capture leads. And they can take up the left side of the screen, and you can use the right side of the screen to give this extra information to add these extra engaging elements. Now, when you switch to a mobile screen, the situation changes completely. And that's because mobile screens are just a lot smaller than desktop screens. So over here, I've switched to mobile view on this exact same landing page. And what you'll notice is that the form takes up way more of the page than it did on the desktop version. Because mobile screens are a lot smaller, you can't have the form on the left and the engaging elements on the right. You have to decide which one you want to keep. And invariably, what ends up happening is you end up keeping the unengaging but necessary elements like the form, because you have to capture leads somehow, so you have to keep that form there. And you get rid of all of that extra stuff like the information and those little graphics. Now, this might seem like a cosmetic change to a lot of LOs. In fact, when we spoke to LOs, they don't really think too much about this, but it's a more dire situation than you think. Millennials especially have shorter attention spans, and they expect more from their online experiences, online buying experiences. So it can't suffice to just give them a page which is essentially just a form and expect them to fill it out. They want to be engaged, whether they think that explicitly or not. They're going to land on this page, they're going to see the form, they're going to take one look at it, and they're going to close out of it immediately. If you're running Google ads or you're investing a lot of time and effort into your marketing campaigns, that's an issue because it's essentially wasting all of that time and effort and money that you're spending. And it's also risking losing that business to a competitor. So say someone lands on this page, they see the form, they get put off by it, and they close. Now, the next time they go and do a Google search for mortgage landing page, maybe your competitor's website is there. They go to that page and maybe they actually fill out the form because it's a little bit shorter, or they're just feeling it that day. And that's lost business for you. So even though a lot of LOs think that all of these engaging elements on the page, which go away when you switch to the mobile version, are just cosmetic changes, they're really not. They have a real impact on the user experience, and that has a real impact on your ability to convert visitors to your pages into actual paying customers. Now, that's where chatbots come into the picture. We have found that chatbots are a great way to make your pages mobile optimized, and that that advantage stems from the interface that chatbots use. Now, I'm sure a lot of you use chat apps. In fact, most of you watching this use chat apps on a daily basis. So these are apps like iMessage or Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp. Those apps, when you think about them, at a deeper level, because we often take them for granted, have interfaces that are built for mobile users first and desktop users second. So that means that this interface that you're seeing on your screen right now was built from the ground up with the mobile user in mind. And that makes it an inherently mobile optimized experience. And I know that sounds a little vague and hand wavy, so I'll get into why they are actually more mobile optimized in real ways. So a good way to think about this is think about the lead generation experience, right? On a regular landing page, the page loads and you show the entire form in one go. You show them every single detail that they need to fill out all in one go, and that takes up a lot of space. That's why forms are often so big, especially on mortgage pages where you're collecting a lot of details. And when you switch from the desktop screen to the mobile screen, you need to make space for that gigantic form on the page. And what ends up happening is, because you don't have that much space, the form ends up taking pretty much the whole page. With a chatbot, you don't face this problem. In a chat conversation, everything happens in a back and forth way. The bot asks the user a question. They ask them for their name. They wait for the user's response, like I responded over here, and then they ask the next question. Do you already have an account with Ally? Since you're only asking for one detail at a time, it doesn't really require that much space to capture a lead. At most, you need enough space for 3 messages, 2 messages that the bot sends, and 1 message that the user sends in response. And that buys you more screen real estate. Because you don't have to show all of these form fields in one go, you're not using that much screen real estate to capture the lead information. And that allows you to bring back those engaging elements that make people convert and that cater to the younger home buyer. So for example, over here, I asked the prospect what state they're buying a home in. The prospect responded with California. And in response, the bot said something like, oh, wow, I have a cousin that lives in California. It's a tiny little piece of small talk that people might take for granted, but it adds a little bit of a human touch. It makes the customer experience feel a little bit more personalized, and as a result, a little bit more premium than it would if you just had a plain old form asking for the exact same thing that's taking up the whole page. And the end result is that you have experiences on the mobile screen which are a lot more engaging. You can re-add all of these elements. You can throw a GIF in here. You can throw a video in here to explain to people a complex concept. And that brings back the engagement to your mobile landing pages. That makes the lead generation experience more than just a utilitarian form-based experience where all the prospect is doing is sharing their details. If you're interested in making that switch, learning more about how we actually get from this unengaging landing page to a chatbot that looks like this, check out the full guide that we created. We'll leave a link to it at the end of this video or in the comments, depending on where you're watching this. We go into a lot of detail in that video. We explain everything from the sorts of messages that you should send, what order you should send them in, even what color the message bubbles should be in your chatbot. So if this seems like something you might be interested in, or you're just curious, click on the link at the end of this video or in the comments. It'll drop you into our full guide.